Well, hello, people of Defend the House, and welcome back to another one of mine and Jameson's long talky review roundups. This is actually part 2 of October. This month has been so busy that we've had to split this review discussion into 2 separate videos. Today, we will be going through Destiny 2, the full PC release, Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus, Assassin's Creed Origins, and Mario Odyssey. Quite a lineup for today. You can probably tell from the runtime already that it might be a long little chat. But we're going to do it in that order, which I think was...
It's more or less release order. I mean,
yeah,
all 3 of those games came out on the same day, so it's...
Oh, yeah. Wait, did Destiny 2 come out the same day as Wolf?
No, it came out on Tuesday.
It was Wolf, Origins, and Mario that came out the same day.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, what a day. Yeah. All right. So, starting off with Destiny 2 on PC, when did we talk about this?
When PS4, so September roundup.
Oh, yes. You gave your impressions of the game. I hadn't really played it. I was saving my playthrough for the delicious PC version because I played the beta, and boy, did it look good.
Also, we got copies for the PC version, so, you know.
Yeah.
All of our... Just basically skip this because we're definitely been paid off 100%.
100%. Yeah. But I'll take lead because, as I said in that, I can't remember what we fucking talked about in that review, I'll be honest. So my thought process on the Destiny series is I found 1 to be fun. I enjoyed the shooty bang bang, that was fun, but the format got too grindy and repetitive for me to really see it through. And I think about a year ago, I didn't think I was going to even touch Destiny 2 because I really assumed that characters were going to carry over. I don't know, I just assumed that was the way it was going to work, and I wasn't interested in grinding my Destiny 1 character up any further, so I was like, I'm done with the franchise. But slowly but surely, new information came out, fresh characters for Destiny 2, and it was coming out on PC, and then I was like, alright, I'll try the beta, it's free, and it felt really, really good. And here we are. I played 30 hours of Destiny 2, and I didn't think I was going to even touch it. I'm going to start with campaign, because that's something that we didn't touch on in your little PS4 discussion. Before I got into Destiny 2, I watched a very long recap video on YouTube.
You ended up watching that whole thing, huh?
I watched the whole thing,
You gave me shit for linking that.
I know. I wasn't expecting to watch it, but it was surprisingly engaging. Yeah,
it's from My Name is Bife, I think is how you say his name.
I'm glad you remember that, because
he's a very good lore, very good Destiny lore channel.
Yes, it was really, really well laid out.
Yeah.
And it was surprisingly engaging. I played through Destiny 1, and I didn't have any idea about any of this lore and backstory, and I was like,
I played 500 hours of Destiny 1 and didn't know about most of that stuff in that video.
And it kind of excited me about the campaign in Destiny 2, because I was a bit more interested in the world. And, yeah. I remember I was playing through the campaign with you and my friend Andy. Yeah. And you guys have played through it on PS4. And I noticed while we were playing that you two seemed slightly puzzled by the fact that I was trying to listen to the story. And I was interested in what's going on. And I thought you were just being impatient because you got through it already. But
I mean, you know,
sort of.
I would say yes. That when I played it through the first time on the PS4, I paid relative attention to the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am quite disappointed by the narrative in Destiny 2. It's just a villain of the week story. Yeah. Where there's a big bad guy, and he takes the light, and he wants the Traveler, and you just have to stop him. And that's it. And I was like, why did I invest all this time into this lore that I didn't need to? And I think it's understandable because Bungie probably knows that nobody understands what's going on in the universe, or they don't know the intricate lore and backstory. A lot of people, this is their first game, so I guess they just didn't want to confuse people, which I found a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
I think it'd be weird if you jumped into a game like Mass Effect for the first time, and it's like, look at all these interesting races, and then it's just a 6-hour campaign where you just try and beat a bad guy. Like, I like sci-fi. I want to know more.
Yeah, if you look at the game as like a bit of a refresh, sort of bring back people like you, the campaign does a really poor job of introducing the world.
Yes.
There are like throwaway lines if you're not importing a character from the first game where they say, they explain each of the races, but it's like literally 1 or 2 lines of dialogue. And so from that perspective, it's kind of just, it's a poor introduction to the world. And yeah, it's interesting coming from the first game. Like, the thing is, Destiny 2's campaign is perfectly fine from a story perspective because it has a story and it has some characters. Whereas the first game had literally no story or characters, and calling it a campaign was like a disservice to campaigns. So you're going from like literally nothing to the most basic of something, and it's a huge leap. But compared to almost every other game on the planet, it's pretty mediocre.
Yeah,
but
it was, I don't know, it just seemed like a waste of a universe that someone spent time on the Destiny 1 lore. Someone spent time building this up, and they just didn't really use it. Maybe this vanilla campaign was an introduction, and in the DLC they will go a bit more intricate into the universe. But anyway,
probably to an extent, yeah.
I don't think anyone who's listening who's played Destiny 2 probably cares about the campaign.
It's
kind
thing.
of like the Call of Duty format where people just kind of try and get through it or don't even touch it at all. Except in Destiny 2, I think you have to.
I think their approach to the campaign storytelling is disappointing, but at the same time makes perfect sense because this is a loot game first and foremost.
Yeah.
It's about shooting things, and it's about getting better gear, and it's about playing with your friends and talking over all the campaign and dialogue and stuff. And I think it's smart of them to relegate the like really deep storytelling and lore stuff to the sort of peripherals of the game.
Yeah.
And that stuff is still there, like the adventures and the weapon descriptions and stuff like that still has there's still a lot of good lore in the game, but it's very much on the sidelines, out of the way. Which I do agree, like it's disappointing that they have a really good universe. Yeah. And they still haven't done anything really interesting with it from like a really immediate, tangible point of view, even though they're still doing interesting things with the lore. It's just so out of the way. And yeah, it's a bit disappointing, I think. But at the same time, I look at something like Diablo 3 and it's like the campaign exists just to get you playing the game, right? And it's like you don't pay any attention to the campaign in Diablo 3, and in Destiny 2 the campaign exists basically as a giant tutorial introduction to the game. And it's just sort of like, just get this out of the way. Let me start playing Destiny how I want to play it. So it's a bit of a weird problem they have. It's abnormal, I think, for a game that is about loot to have like a really good universe. And, so it's sort of like, do they bring that stuff to the forefront? I don't think they should, because I think a lot of people, like the majority of people, I don't think want that.
True. It's just a bizarre jump from being used to the Halo franchise.
Yeah,
and having it jump to this when it's just really stripped down. But, one thing I will compliment the campaign on is good locations. There's some unique locations in the campaign that they have yet to integrate into a social space or a strike. There's a location near the end, which I would love to go back to, where you're very close to our sun. I won't spoil where it is, in case you haven't played the game yet, but it was amazing. It was my favourite location in the whole game so far, and you can't go back to it yet. I don't even know if you can revisit campaign missions freely. I know you said that you can speak to one of the people at the tower, and they give you like a selection of campaign missions. Yeah. But I want to see that location again without starting a new character.
Yeah. Yeah, but, there's some, I appreciate that there are a few, there's probably like, I think 4 levels that are they happen purely in campaign only areas, and they're really, really cool looking, especially the last 2. Yeah. They did a good job with that.
But I don't think complaining about the campaign's really gonna bother anyone, because it's not the largest part of the game. It's the tiniest part of the game. Before we go into the PvE stuff, which is what I think we're both most invested in, I'm just going to quickly talk about the visuals of the game. I don't have much to say except for it. I think it's the sharpest looking game I've ever seen. It's getting harder and harder to break down and quantify like what makes a game look good, because back in the past it was just like, how photorealistic can they make video games? And I feel like 5 years ago everyone was saying this is the best looking game I've ever seen, but it's almost impossible to say that now because graphics have become more complicated and diverse, and it's not just about how real things look, it's about how colourful and stylish things are. And I think Destiny just has one of the most colourful and interesting looking palettes I've seen in video games, maybe ever. I'm not good enough at understanding video games to even describe what makes the game look so sharp and pristine, but it just has this cleanliness to it, which I just haven't really seen in other games. And I'm playing on a substantially worse monitor than you and some of the other people we play with. I'm playing in 1080p 60, and this is coming from me. I don't know what will happen when I eventually see this game in like 144 frames per second. It might blow my brain apart.
as games get as the technology progresses and things, get more and more capable of being photorealistic, it definitely, I think, provides really interesting challenges to developers of like, okay, instead of that, how do we stand out? And you have to stand out now with a good art style. And Destiny 1 looked incredible and has a great look to it, but they've definitely tweaked it a little bit in this game. It's I think mainly just like a color palette thing, that they've like embraced a pastel color palette and like super colorful.
It's bold.
And yeah, it really stands out. And it's plus I think just like 60 frames per second and or higher, and it's got an unquantifiable thing to how it looks, sort of like Overwatch, where it's just like, it's so clean and polished and expensive and smooth, and it just sort of combines it into a whole package that looks like absolutely amazing constantly. Which is really impressive because it looked very good on the PS4. I played it on the Pro, and it looked fantastic. But the 60 FPS really, or higher, really goes a long ways to making the game look and feel a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
And that'll come up again in another game later for me, where it's like, I feel like I'm becoming one of those people where it's like, I can't play it below 60 frames per second. God damn it.
I think that's another thing about the PC version is, again, another thing that's hard to break down and describe specifically why, but it feels amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of those games where the most mundane of tasks in the game, from just clearing out a generic bunch of enemies, it's just always satisfying because it just feels good. And I wish I had better words to describe why it feels so good and satisfying to play. But I just have to put it down to Bungie being good at gunplay. They just know how to design it and make it satisfying for long periods of time. And it might be the most satisfying and best feeling first-person shooter I've ever played. I don't like to use the word ever because it's kind of spooky to dedicate towards that. But I just can't think of anything else that feels this tight.
Yeah, their PC team, along with the other studio, Vicarious Visions, they did a very thorough job of porting it to the PC or making a PC version. And I think just saying it feels really good is completely fine. Like, that's the magical goalpost everyone shoots for when they're making a video game, is how do we make it feel amazing to play? And it's 1,000 little things that make up what how a game feels and the end result. And if the end result is you saying it feels like the best playing first-person shooter you've played on a PC, then whatever they did it right, and they did it well, and that's fantastic. And I agree, it is definitely one of the best playing first-person shooters on the PC. Like, it's, I would say it's this, Doom, and Overwatch in terms of just like smooth feedback, feel good all the time. And it might be In terms of, I've been playing it mostly on a 144 hertz monitor, and it's probably the best feeling game I've played on that monitor. It's the PC port really is, considering Bungie game has not come out onto the PC since like Marathon in the like, or no, I guess Halo 1. Halo 1 came out on the PC. Oh no, I suppose Halo 2 did as well. I played Halo 2 on the PC. But like that was, over a decade ago, and those games were ports by other studios. Considering how long Bungie has been sitting only on consoles, it's crazy that the game can come out on the PC, and it feels like it was built from the ground up around being played on a PC, and that the consoles are like the other way to play it, even though it's the exact opposite of that. It's very, very impressive how good of a job they did with the PC port.
Right. Now talking about what you do in the game after the campaign is ended and the credits roll. So this was the area which was most important to me. Yeah. I didn't like the grinding in Destiny 1, and I think I can say confidently that there's a crap ton of stuff to do in Destiny 2. There's a lot of unique content. I checked earlier, and I think I'm at like 31/32 hours, and I've only been doing unique content. I've only redone a single one of the raids multiple times.
Strikes.
Strikes. The other 4, I've only done a single time.
That fucking Nightfall back to back, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I've done a lot of public events.
Yeah.
The public events are so enticing that you can't really drive past them when they're already happening around you. But when it comes to lost sectors, adventures, and I'm not sure what you call the blue campaign missions you get after the campaign's beat. The little,
I don't know, quests.
Little
main
quests.
Side quests. I don't know.
I have been going along and doing all of those kind of like in a checklist fashion, and I've been having a good time. There's 4 main planets. Was it 5? 4.
There's 4, yeah. Plus
4, and
4.
Each one of those planets has a good variety to them that makes them consistently fun to explore and look around. They do a good job of mixing up the objectives, even in a game where you're just kind of shooting at things. I was surprised into the game how they made some missions a little bit more interesting. There's some platforming sections. There's even some, I don't want to ruin it because you haven't done the adventures yet, but there's some mechanics that you don't see anywhere else in the game, which I'm starting to think maybe will come into the raid. But I haven't seen them in the campaign or in the strike, so it's kind of fun to get some unique gameplay elements in them. And I've just been having a good time. We're going to move into progression, because even though there's a lot to do in Destiny 2, again, one of the problems in Destiny 1 was having to grind to get to a certain light level.
Yeah.
And we went through how the game works system-wise. In our console review, you explained it. Now it's power level instead of light level, and everything from your weapons to armors contributes to that. This game feels like it was designed for players like me.
Yeah.
So much that it's kind of worrying for people who aren't like us. Leveling up in this game is really easy. Like, surprisingly easy. You don't really look for specific drops until, I guess, when we get to the raid, because we haven't played the raid yet. You just kind of do stuff, and then something will drop at power level 160. And then the next thing you do, it will be 165. And then it'll be 170. And you just slowly and gradually level up at a pretty high speed without really having to think about it or do anything. I don't know if I am complaining about this, because it's satisfying to always be progressing, but the speed at which I was leveling up was kind of alarming.
Yeah.
I was just doing the kind of side stuff, adventures and lost sectors, which don't even have good rewards, and I was leveling up fast, like really fast. I'm not sure what the cap is. 220
for what?
Power level
305.
305. Fuck.
Well, you're like 270 or something, right?
Oh, I was thinking I'm 180. Am I 280?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
or
my
whatever.
bad.
Yeah, somewhere around.
Yeah, I was thinking 100 off. So I'm 284
Right.
/ 282 now. And
You're pretty much at the point now where it's like, okay, now if you want to get higher up on the light level chain, you do need to just sort of poke away at it on a week by week basis. Yeah, but
I don't know if I have a conclusion to this specific point. It's just been interesting to me how easy it is to level up. It's pretty thoughtless. You don't have to do anything specific. You don't have to focus on strikes. You just do whatever you want, and you level up to 280, raid ready, very quickly.
I think that's a good thing.
I don't know why I'm
personally.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm debating whether I'm complaining or not. I don't think I am.
Like,
I think it's interesting.
There's a very decently sized and vocal group of people that have a lot of issues with Destiny 2, especially end game, and maybe that it's a little too easy or you get too many exotics or stuff like that. But we're not those people, and I think even as someone that put in a lot of time into the first game, I am completely fine with that, with how easy and satisfying it is to level up. I think making it easy for everyone to be at the appropriate light level to do the raid is a good thing, because the first game, I mean, even after 2 years of patching, like the Rise of Iron, it was still a pretty decent grind to get to a appropriate light level, even though it not anywhere near as much of a grind as it was when the game launched. But like Rise of Iron, time to raid ready versus this game is, it's probably actually not that different. But I'm fine with it. It's super satisfying. Every time I log on to play something, I get, maybe like one step closer to 285 or 286 or whatever. And they probably do dole out a few too many exotics, maybe.
Yeah. That might be where my slight
lost their
disappointment
luster a little bit
is coming from, because even though it's fun to progress all the time, I can't really remember an exciting moment in Destiny 2 yet where I've got a piece of loot which I was looking for or I was excited to get. Whenever you do get a exotic engram, it's still exciting to get one, but they're dished out at a pace which has reduced that excitement a little bit.
Yeah, so there's definitely some overcorrection in this game, because like the first game, the exotics dropped so rarely that it was to the point of frustration for me, at least. And in this game, it's interesting. In the first game I had horrible loot luck, and in Destiny 2, I've been blessed by the Destiny gods I've got a lot of good stuff. The luck of I get so many fucking drops in this game. That it's making you guys angry at me because of the frequency with which I get them, and I'm not complaining really, but there's definitely, I think you said it, I don't know when, in our podcast or something, where you said like it would be nice if there was one extra uber rare tier of loot, and we still haven't done the raid yet, and there's some really cool gear in the raid. And there's also Trials of the 9, but that's multiplayer, and it would be fun though if there was one step above exotic that dropped super uncommonly. You would get like 2 in 100 hours or something, or less than that. But then at the same time, it's like then they have to make a bunch of more gear. And then people would probably complain about, oh, this gear is super rare to drop. It's a weird thing to complain. It's like, I've gotten too many really cool items.
Yeah.
I think they've definitely lost the magic a little bit with the exotics.
When you said overcorrected, that might be the perfect way to describe it. It's good. It's a good system, but it's just not that exciting or satisfying when you get an exotic, because they dish them out at a nice rate.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of tweaking to the loot system would have been nice.
Oh, and I'm sure they will. Like if you think about how much Destiny 1 changed through its DLC, and I said this in the last review. It's like this is such a good starting working platform to work off of versus the first game, where it's like, you know, they had to just patch and DLC, and it took them over a year before they got the game to a point that it was like really good. And whereas this game, it's like, I think the game as it is on day one is really good, and all the DLC and patches that come after that will only make it better, and it'll allow them to fine-tune and sort of readjust some of the overcorrections that they made, and then you'll get a game that, like, I think Destiny 2 is good enough for them to never make a third Destiny. Like, in an ideal world, I think that they could just keep adding on to Destiny 2 for the next 5 or 6 years, because the fundamentals of it are all perfectly solid, you know, and if they, like, the Taken King changed the game substantially. If they do that every year with a big, huge expansion, I don't feel the need for them to make a third game. Whereas in the first game, it was like, you guys should really just start over. And they did, and it was the right thing to do, I think, because there was just no way they were going to be able to keep bolting things onto Destiny 1. So you know, I continue to really like Destiny, even though it's interesting how the flaws are like the polar opposite of the flaws of the first game. It's like, it's like there's too much loot and you level too quickly, and there's not enough endgame content, which has always been a Destiny problem, but like, the loot and leveling issues couldn't be more opposite from the loot and leveling issues of the first game, which, you know, I'd rather have it the way it is in Destiny 2 than it was in Destiny 1, because I was just pissed off at Destiny for most of the first year that I played it. Whereas this, it's like, I've never gotten frustrated with this game so far. Mind you, we haven't done the raid yet, so.
One design choice I'm not 100% sure about is in the first game, your light level was just your armor, and in this game, your power level is now weapon based. So half of it's weapons, half of it's armor. I don't.
That happened. I think with the Taken King, that happened. That changed.
Okay.
The system we have now, where all your gear combines to the light level, that I think came into play in Destiny, in the Taken King, or it might have even been sooner than that, but I'm pretty sure it was Taken King. So
I don't know if I like that system, because there are certain aspects of the game which are locked behind a power level, and it kind of sometimes forces you to use a weapon that you don't want to use. I like this system, which you said was also integrated during Taken King, where you can infuse other weapons into, say, a lower level weapon which you are preferring the feel of, but obviously you can only do that between types. So right now, if I want to clock over 280 comfortably to like access the gunsmith's, what does he do? Give you mods or something? I have to equip a grenade launcher, which I am currently not equipping, because I have a rocket launcher which is less powerful, but it's just much more fun to use. So I have to kind of awkwardly go into my inventory, equip the grenade launcher, so here, have a little chat with me, and then change back to the rocket launcher, which just seems like a strange system.
Yeah, in the first game, it was when they introduced infusion, whenever it was, you could infuse
any type,
any primary weapon into any other primary weapon, or any secondary or heavy weapon. So you could infuse a sniper into a rocket. I think that is a problem until you get to, you know, you keep getting up in light level, and then eventually you get to a point where it's like, well, I'm well above the light level requirements for any of these things. I can just use whatever gear I want now, because
once you get past the barrier.
If I fluctuate 3 light levels, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it is. I do understand that it's a little annoying. I definitely have done that in the past, where it's like, I don't want to use this gun, but it's the only thing that's really high light level, so I guess I'll use it.
Also, another small complaint, grenade launchers are shit and
they
worthless.
Really are, yeah.
I don't think any other gun type is useless. I've tried all the different assault rifles. I like Scout, I like the Pulse, Auto is fun, I use submachine guns. I don't really use fusion rifles very much in the power weapon slot.
They're solid.
But, you know, I even use swords. I think swords are fun. I think grenade launchers are just kind of complete garbage.
And I didn't even realize this until, like, 2 or 3 weeks into the PS4 version that they got rid of heavy machine guns from the game. I
can't remember.
It was in the first game. It was one of the power weapon types was a big, light machine gun, basically, like from Call of Duty or whatever. And they're not in the game at all, which is I never really used them. I wasn't a fan of them, but it's like I didn't even notice that they were gone until recently, and I would much rather have those than the grenade launchers, because the grenade launchers are really not good at all.
I'm very annoyed that it's my highest power level.
That sucks.
Special weapon. It really sucks.
Yeah, I got lucky because my highest power level exotic is Wardcliffe Coil, which is like a really, really fun rocket launcher.
I want that.
So, it's like you got the shitty end of the stick, whereas I got I got the really fun gun that's a really high light level. Oh no, I have to use the really fun gun. Yeah. It's a fair thing to complain about, though.
I think my last complaint of the game, don't know how this works. It might be an early issue, something to do with servers, but a lot of the times when you do public events, you're just on your own. Sometimes there's 7 people there, and when you're with I don't know what the maximum number is for public events.
I don't know. I've seen 8 before. It might be 12 even. I'm not sure.
When you have a ton of people on a heroic event, it is so fun. It is fucking mayhem, and there's so many on-screen effects going on that you don't even really know what's happening, but you're still having fun. I had that last night where I didn't really count, but it felt like more than 5, which would equal 6 people in total, which is the raid fire team max. It definitely felt like there was 8 or so people, and it was awesome. And there's a lot of challenges, weekly things that are tied to you doing public events, and it's just kind of frustrating when I do 4 in a row and I'm on my own, and half the time I can't even beat them. I managed to scrape past a few of them, but it's really hard on your own, really difficult.
And it's not very fun on your own.
No, it's such a scramble and a desperate attempt to survive that it just kind of is exhausting.
I've definitely noticed I've noticed it more on the PC, and I think the lack of other players in zones, and I think it might be due to load times. So when you're loading into something, it's matchmaking you with people, and the PS4, the load times are 45 seconds, and I think you find more people on the PS4 because it has more time to load, whereas on the PC, I'm playing off an SSD and the load times are fast. And it puts me in an empty zone. There's a trick you can do that still works in this, where if you walk in that transition from one zone to the next, if you sort of slow down and walk into the next zone slowly, it'll put you in an instance with lots of people a lot of the times.
Okay.
Because it's matchmaking you as you're walking to the next zone. And excuse me. And you can also, if you spawn in at the EDZ, the spawn zone.
That place is always busy.
Okay, bad example. If you spawn into Titan at the spawn zone, which often for me is quiet, and there's no one there and there's a public event coming up or just happening, you can just fast travel back to that exact same spot where you're standing in a few times, or maybe it only takes one time, and it'll put you in a new instance of that zone with other people.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to do that.
No, I completely agree. I'm just telling you, there are sort of workarounds for it, but I have noticed that as well. I was doing the milestone last week for public events, and I had the same problem. It was 5 in a row where there was no one around, and it sucked. They're not fun to do solo. They're meant for a bunch of people, and they're a blast when there are a bunch of people around, even one other person.
I want there to be strangers around me. That sounds really weird. I want there to be other players around me for all events. I did all the adventures, and there's a shit ton of them. I reckon there's 30 across the game, and I only did 2 where other people joined me, and it's really cool to do adventures with other people, just strangers jumping around in these unique areas, doing them with you, and it just doesn't happen very much in any activities outside of public events. I think it would be fun if people were wandering into lost sectors with me, and more consistency with instances in adventures would have been nice as I went through them.
The 2 big problems Destiny continues to have is endgame content, and for it being such a social quote-unquote game, it's not. It's not a social game. It is if you're playing with a group, with a fire team of 2 other people. But But if you're just playing solo, like, you're not engaging with other people, and the most you'll do is you'll get put into an instance where there are 4 other people, and you might dance with one of them. But the lack of matchmaking options for campaign missions, for adventures, for lost sectors, the inconsistencies of matchmaking in the zones for public events, like you said, they always say, like, oh, it's all about playing with your fire team, Guardians. And it's like, no, this game I play like probably 80% of the time solo, and there's no one else around. And it's
it really
still a problem.
does improve the experience when there's other people just around with you. Just making it feel a little bit alive. It's just nice, even if you're not really doing anything with them.
I don't know why the patrol zones are still only 3 people for a fire team. Like, I have no understanding of why that's the case. You should be able to bring in 6 people into a patrol zone. Like, I get it for campaign and strikes. It's sort of built around 3 people, but I don't understand why that's the case for patrols. It's obviously, like, Nightfall and Raid, they probably shouldn't have matchmaking. It would probably be a bad time with matchmaking. But, like, I should be able to play a campaign mission and play it with other people. And we should all 5 of us that are playing Destiny in our Discord group, we should all be able to go into a patrol zone together and do public events. And it's stupid that you can't. And I really can't think of any reason why they wouldn't let you do that beyond just... fuck you, it's 3 people. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. It's still frustrating, I think, in that regard.
But for me, that kind of summarizes my early thoughts on Destiny 2, because we're going to keep playing. We've got raids and expansions to come, so we'll probably be talking about it much more. But I'll pass it over to you to briefly talk about the PvP, because I have not touched it since the beta, and I will not be touching it because I don't want to play it. I don't want to play.
No, I can't really talk too much about the PvP. Like, I played maybe 6 matches of it on the PC, and it's like a little bit more tolerable than the PS4 version, but I just fundamentally don't think Destiny's multiplayer is good. I think they've made changes to it from Destiny 1 that absolutely 100% improve the experience. There are way less ways in which you get instantly killed in Destiny 2, and that's great. But just like I don't like playing it because the matchmaking is garbage, and their netcode stuff is garbage. It's just terrible. Like, the consistency with which you get paired up against 3 or 4 stacks on the other team who just wipe the floor with you is astonishing. Like, it's almost every game that I played was up against either a group of 2, 3, and even I played against a group of 4, and it's 4v4, so, like, the other team they just win. And the consistency with which you, like, trade kills with someone, or I shoot someone in the head and get them to 1 HP and then they kill me, and then I see their health teleport back up to 100%. I get killed around corners. Like, the matchmaking and network quality is just dog shit in this game, and it's 90% of why I don't play it. It's just because it's just terrible. Like, and the other fundamentals of the game are fine. The shooting, map design, it's fine, but the quality of the back end systems for the multiplayer are like the worst I've seen in a big AAA game, and they're just as bad as they were in Destiny 1. And like, I don't know how they made Halo and then went to this for like it boggles my mind. And I pretty much don't. I did it once 1 week, did the Crucible milestone, and then I decided no, I'm pretty much never going to touch the multiplayer again because I just have no fun with it, and I'm completely infuriated and baffled by the quality of the matchmaking and online services. In every single time I played that game, there was something. It was like everyone was either lagging, or I would melee someone and they'd melee me and I would just die for no reason, or I was up against a 4 stack and it's like, okay, I'm just not going to play this. So people really love Destiny multiplayer, and I don't understand how, but hey, you love what you love. It's fine. It's not for me.
I think I have to play some soon, because I think it's tied to the rat gun the Rat King gun.
Oh, it might be, yeah.
You've got to play 2 matches. So
the game is much more tolerable when you're playing with like a group of 4 people, ideally. But it's still... It's not something I want to engage with. Like, I don't play a lot of competitive multiplayer anyways anymore. I've pretty much fallen off of it in the last year after Overwatch and even PUBG, which is... I wouldn't consider it... It's like a different type of competitive.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. It's not what I come to Destiny for. I come to that game for the PvE and nothing else, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, luckily for us, PvE will be the focus of the game.
Yeah, and thankfully, like, there's a lot to do in the PvE.
Yeah.
Which actually ties into something I forgot to say earlier, is that, like, the patrol zones, now that I've started putting time into doing Lost Sectors and Adventures, those zones are massive.
Yeah?
It's astonishing how many little nooks and crannies there are in those zones, and they just keep going, it feels
That's
like.
why I really enjoy doing those side activities. You see loads of new stuff.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Like, I'd gotten a sense of it when I was playing it on the PS4, but I deliberately didn't engage with a lot of the adventures or Lost Sectors, and having now done some of it on PC, it's very impressive how big those zones are, especially compared to the first game, which were, for the most part, pretty small. You know, just all the little cave systems and little one-off rooms that they've built for adventures. Some areas are locked. You can only get to them in an adventure.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's they really made the game a lot bigger from a pre-end game perspective.
Yeah.
Like, if you play the campaign and do all the adventures and all the Lost Sectors, like, there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, I have done that. I finished them all, and I'm at 32 hours. We haven't even done the raid yet.
That's a pretty respectable amount of time, if you ask me, for the base game.
$60.
Yeah. And the next expansion is out, or the first expansion is out in a month from today, or less than a month from today. So, you know, I would love if there was more endgame content, but...
Yes. I like our idea of another loot level. Just one more. One more.
Or
exotic,
just
which is
some
super
sort
rare.
some sort of really repeatable endgame activity that gives you rare gear, like a horde mode.
There needs to be, in every loot game, in my opinion, there needs to be that one moment where something drops and it's extremely exciting and you get to gloat to people. There's really nothing that you want to tell other people you got in Destiny 2. Because people are like, oh, cool,
you're right.
Nice, I'll probably get that next time I play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But,
there needs to be some sort of golden ticket thing where it's like...
100%.
Yeah, where it's a celebration when you get it.
But I think I'm about done wrapping up my thoughts on Destiny 2. It's designed way more this time for my type of playstyle, and I've really enjoyed the 30 or so hours I put into it. I look forward to trying the raid and doing all the unique content for probably a year or so to come. I'm glad that they got rid of the grinding in the game, and so far, in this build, because we don't know where it's going to go in the future, I'm enjoying it. I think it's a really fun time.
I'm with you. Yeah, for all the issues it has, which are not like profound or game ruining, I think like they're all mostly good issues to have in a way, sort of, except for the end game stuff. I really like Destiny 2. It's very comfortable to play, and
yes,
I look forward to just continuing to have it around for the next however many years they support Destiny 2 content before they make a third game.
It's nice just having a comfy game which is easy to jump into for short periods of time, because I didn't have a game like that before this launched. I didn't really have a multiplayer game I was actively playing, which is kind of like the go-to time burner for people who don't have anything else on the go. Like, there's nothing else, I'm going to play a few rounds of Overwatch. I didn't have that type of game. So I'm glad to have a comfy game that I can jump into when I have nothing else I'm really interested in.
Yeah. And I don't know what I'm going to say. Never mind. I like Destiny, and I look forward to playing more of it.
Yeah.
I do agree with the people that the really hardcore people. The philosophy behind their complaints is, I wish there was more to Destiny, because if there was like an infinite amount of content, which is obviously impossible, but if there was, I would be playing that game like every day, like constantly.
Yeah, it's a complaint which comes out of love for the game from those people.
Yeah, and a desire to just have like endlessly more Destiny content, because the core of it is so strong, I think, and obviously like the production values don't allow for that, and that's a shame. But at the same time, like I can't fucking wait for that first DLC.
Yeah, like
if there was 200 hours of Destiny content, I would be playing it religiously, like nonstop.
Yeah,
it's like The Witcher 3 for me, where it's like, if they just made more content for this game and never made another game again, I would be happy. But that is not necessarily a feasible or logical thing to do. So, yeah. It's a quality product, I think.
Yes. A vast improvement over the first one.
Oh, God,
and a nice, comfy first-person shooter, which looks and plays damn good.
Yeah.
And swiftly moving on to Wolf 2 after that very brief discussion on Destiny 2. This is going to be a long video. Oh, wow. Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus.
Jawohl.
We have played this franchise. We have played New Blood. How'd it go? New Order, Old Blood.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go. We were ahead of the curve on liking the
you.
Wolfenstein games.
Yes. I haven't played them since launch, so
really?
I can't really recall them very well, but I remember them being a good time. They
it's
played
mainly
well.
the New Order, honestly.
They played well, and they had a really fun, dark, comical style to like the narrative stuff, and it was a good old time. I was pretty excited for Wolfenstein 2, but I'm going to pass this game over to you to begin with.
So Wolfenstein has a special place in my heart. I've been playing them for as long as I can remember. Like Wolf 3D.
Fill me in on this, because I didn't know about this. You dropped this in Discord saying it's like one of your oldest franchises that you have a place in your heart for, and I don't think I knew about this.
Yeah, well, Wolfenstein 3D is like one of the first games I ever played. It was obviously not when it was released, because I was not born when it was released, or I was like, a month old in 1993 when it came out. But I played it on a laptop, in like 2000, along with Myst. It was like, and Chip's Challenge. Those are like the first games I ever remember playing, and Wolf 3D. So that was Wolf 3D, and I've sort of, because of that, always kept an eye on the Wolf games. Return to Castle Wolfenstein is a solid game. The 2009 Raven Wolfenstein is
you played
better.
That? I never played that.
I didn't play a lot of it. I played a few hours of it, but it's better than it probably should be. And then the new Order came out, and it was like, oh wow, this is the best Wolfenstein ever. I thought it played well. I know there are people that have a lot of issues with the gameplay in these new games, but I really enjoy playing the New Order, and I thought it did an interesting mix of old and new game design, like with the map and collectibles and health kits, and then they wrapped it up in a story and world with characters that are exceptionally well written and surprising. Like Wolfenstein the New Order was like one of the best surprises ever, I think. And it was the first of the sort of, I would say, like light renaissance in first-person shooter campaigns that we've seen over the last few years. It was the first of those, I think, before Doom and Titanfall. It was like the New Order, and I went into the new Colossus extremely excited for it. That was before they showed a trailer for it. I was already sold, and then they showed that trailer at E3 and promised a lot of mayhem and violence in the gameplay, and some real bonkers looking stuff in the story and writing perspective. And for me, they fucking nailed it, and it's probably the most I've enjoyed a first-person shooter campaign in a long time, even though we'll get into it later. But like gameplay-wise, obviously there are better games, especially from last year, from a gameplay perspective or from a set piece perspective. But as an overall package, the new Colossus gameplay, world design, and story and writing stuff is a real banger for me, with the story stuff being really the highlight of it.
Yes.
How do you feel about the new Colossus?
So...
Oh, also, I will say, just sorry, I've played the New Order several times since release. I think I've played it through 4 times. So, and my most recent playthrough was just a couple months ago. So, the gameplay style is very well worn into my brain.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think... I think a part of this game is one of the best in video games possibly ever. And the other half I didn't really like at all.
Really? I had a feeling.
The part I didn't like at all was the gameplay. I didn't really like playing the game.
See, yeah, I would be fascinated to see if you played the New Order again, how you felt about it.
I am actually going to blame Destiny 2 a little bit for this, because as I just said, I think Destiny 2 is one of the best feeling first-person shooters I've ever played, and I was interlacing sessions of Destiny 2 with Wolfenstein, and I'm a little bit disappointed they didn't innovate on their systems at all. I can respect that, you know, when something works and people like it. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. But it just felt old school in a way which I found inconvenient and a little bit frustrating. Like some quality of life things, I think would have gone a long way.
Sure, yeah.
And I think coming from Destiny, a lot of the guns didn't feel satisfying to me. The pistol, submachine gun, and assault rifle, they just felt flat. It didn't feel like I was doing much to the enemies. They just kind of tumbled over, and they didn't sound very good. As soon as I got the shotgun, I never stopped using the shotgun with other weapons ever, because the shotgun actually felt like it was doing something to people. It was destroying people into a bloody pulp, which I really liked. God, where do I start?
Well, I think I know what you mean, because I remember this being a problem in the New Order as well. Like, it was, and I would love to know if we recorded any thoughts at the time for the New Order. I
don't think so.
I know it was on my Game of the Year list, and I know it wasn't on yours, and so I suspect that I think I remember us talking and you having similar gameplay issues with it.
Really? You got good memory. I don't remember that at all.
I think I could be completely making that up, but I know lots of people have problems with the gameplay in these games, and I completely understand all of them, like the finicky nature of, you know, picking up health and armor and ammo, and the weird sort of eclectic, like, you can play stealth or you can play dual wielding shotguns, and the like lack of hit feedback, which I will say is a problem in this game in a way that it wasn't in the first game. It was still a problem in the first game, but in this game, if you play on a harder difficulty, like, you gotta watch your fucking health, because they don't give you any visual warning until you're at like 10 HP.
Which you're basically done for.
Yeah, which you're dead. Yeah, there's some unlearning that has to happen when you're playing Wolfenstein, and I think a lot of it is mindset related, even though, like, in terms of how much you enjoy it. Whereas, like me, I've played this game or the New Order a lot beforehand. I'm sort of comfortable with the weird issues the gameplay has, and it resulted in me having a really good time with it. But, you know, I understand where you're coming from. Like, the hit feedback, the weapon feel, the
it's not much variety either with the weapons. You you get one little zappy laser gun very early on, which is fun. There's a few very heavy weapons, and then that's kind of it. You get a few variations of the kind of same effect on enemies. Yeah,
and the first game was definitely more stealth friendly. This game definitely, it's weird. The game definitely feels like, in terms of gameplay wise, it's best played on a low difficulty, and you pick up 2 guns, one in each hand, and you hold the forward button and shoot everything in your path. And I think I'm replaying it right now for the Wyatt timeline, and I'm playing it on the easiest difficulty and doing just that. And
yeah,
you sure feel unstoppable when you're playing it that way.
Yeah, if you are using my footage right now for this review, that was during a period of time where I was taking it much slower. And I don't know if you take less damage in the second half of the game, because there's a certain plot development which changes you as a character. But I just got into a better rhythm towards the back end, where I realized I really liked the shotgun and the assault rifle dual wielded. I found that to be a nice combination, and I got an upgrade which let me ram into people and either make them explode or knock them down. So I was kind of encouraged and rewarded for sprinting around like an idiot. And I did enjoy it more in the second half, but I still found it to be not as satisfying as I would want it. I thought the environments were bad in the game. There's one fun town scene in Roswell, I think it is, which is a really neat environment, and you can actually go back there for combat via the side quests. I didn't like the side quests though, because for some reason they just don't put in a checkpoint. Like it's some sort of weird challenge map.
Yeah, they're like combat challenges.
Yeah, so I did one of those, and then I just didn't go back to those again.
Yeah.
I think I feel really bad for saying this because it makes me seem like a fucking millennial, but I didn't like the health and armor system, which I felt guilty about not liking it, because that's how games used to be. That's like a traditional old system, and I don't know, it felt...
Well, I mean, it's fine to feel that way.
Go back to older games easier.
Yeah.
And this is a system that was the foundation, that was the standard, and it just felt really
moved
strange.
away from it.
I know, and it just felt really strange to be in combat, and I'm like, I'm at 30% health. I could kill these enemies, but I'm gonna die, so I'm like looking in fucking closets for health and just staring at the floor, scanning it like a fucking Hoover. A vacuum, sorry. For you NA people. And there's just a lot of... I'm going to progress into story now because...
Well, just a sec. I just want to say, like, you made me think of something, which was, you know, like you said, you go back to a lot of old games. And I don't, because a lot of old games I don't have experience with, and thus find them really hard to play. So it's interesting. I think my experience with old games is playing something like Wolfenstein 3D. And so, like, all the gameplay issues that you and lots of other people have, which I think are all valid, they're just not issues for me. I like, when I booted up Wolf 3D in the game, because you can play it like the first game, I was like, oh yeah, Wolf 3D, I remember how to play this game. I know where the secrets are, I know where the health packs are, like, and so I think just, you know, we've talked a lot about muscle memory with old games, and I think my muscle memory is for this type of game where you have to sort of scavenge for health pickups and secrets and stuff like that. And it's a shame that you don't have that, but I completely understand that, especially after something like Doom or Destiny 2, where it's like, this is a game built around the mechanic of shooting, and it nails that. And I think that, it's a little bit of a bizarre, out-of-place gameplay style in 2017, but I ended up really having a great time playing it.
There's just a few systems which I just think are bad from a quality of life point of view. I could never get my head around the dual weapon system switching. It was like you had to start with one weapon, and then you press X to get out two of the same weapon, and then you had to switch like your right hand to a different weapon, and then if you press X you went back to the single weapon, and I could never efficiently get the layout I wanted. It was always so slow and complicated, which seemed weird for a game which was about speed, I think so. I know they can complement stealth, but I mean, come on, you're supposed to run around like a maniac in Wolfenstein. It's a fun way to play it. So I thought that was clunky, and this is, I don't know why this bothered me so much, but the waypoint is so fucking small. I could never find it on the screen. If you press the H key... Oh,
I don't think I ever used that once.
It is so small, and it's like, it's opaque. Like, the opacity is half and it's grey. And I spent so long just like looking around like, where am I supposed to be going?
That's funny.
And usually you just go forward in the game. The layouts aren't complicated. It's not a Metrovania. You're not backtracking, but There's just like there's so many small little things that they could have polished and innovated. Because it's a sequel. It's got a 2 in it. It's a sequel. It's not like the Old Blood where it's like a spin-off. This is it's the second in the series, the franchise.
And I would argue that they don't need to do that because this is the type of game that they're making, and it is counterintuitive and to all modern game design and to a flaw for a lot of people. And I completely think you're right, but at the same time, I'm glad it plays this way. I like that it's this weird old school thing.
But I think you can retain that while still just polishing systems and making it more intuitive to the standard that is nowadays.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And also, this might be... Let me know if you want to talk about the gameplay more.
I was just going to say also, I liked the levels. I think they're not as interesting from a design point of view as the first game. The first game was a bit wider and a little more accommodating to stealth, whereas these levels are a bit more... they're a little more linear, like straightforward, like you have to push through to finish the combat encounter. And I think just from an artistic perspective, the first game had more interesting world design because you're in Europe and it's been built up by the Nazis, whereas you're mostly in America for this game, and you're in environments that don't have like this crazy architecture like the first game did. But I enjoyed going and seeing all the weird sort of Nazi-ifying of America.
There wasn't really that much of it, though.
No, there wasn't. I do think there should have been more of that. I agree. Yeah.
Then it was just like a Fallout environment, and then there was just so much machinery and pipes and air ducts and more pipes and computer systems, and it just felt industrial for 70% of the game. I didn't like the environments.
I do think that compared to the first game, they are inferior. But I think from a world building perspective, it's an interesting sort of counter to the way the world looks in the first game, which is Europe versus America. But I do agree the levels are not as good as the first game.
And this is going to sound like a strange complaint.
Okay.
But the gameplay felt worse to me because the best part of the game, in my opinion, is the narrative and the cutscenes and the characters and the story. It's so good, which we're going to go into, that I just wanted to get through the shooting.
That's fair. Yeah, I
was just like, let me see the next bit.
I feel that way about a lot of games. I'm like with Uncharted. I would feel that way about them. It's like the shooting is so boring. Just let me see the cutscenes and story. Yeah. I completely understand that, even though I like I've said, I had a great time playing it. But yeah, the story and writing and character stuff in this game is the best part of this game, and it is fucking exceptional. And some of the best I've ever seen.
Yes, 100% agree.
I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Just before I move on, I just want to... I've been very negative, but I will say that there is fun to have in the gameplay, and I did have some fun. I just want to quickly say that before we go into the story stuff, because I kind of shit on the game. I had problems, but... If
you were to ever replay it, you should play it on easy, because the auto pickup of health and armor, that happens when you just walk over things, that in tangent with the little amount of damage you take allows me... I never pick up health and armor. I'm playing on easy, basically.
Yeah, I started to do that later on in the game. Just learn to just spin around in circles over a bunch of corpses, and you're probably fine. And also, later on in the game, I got an upgrade where I regenerated armor naturally.
Right, yeah.
It was for the ramshackles, which was super helpful.
I used the stilts, and they let you overcharge your health, and it does not deteriorate the health. So it could get up to 200 HP, and it would just sit there, which is cool. I didn't expect any of that. I didn't know any of that was in the game. The side missions or the contraptions, or even weapon upgrades. Side missions suck. I like the side missions because they're more combat, and I like the combat. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from with that. But they're completely optional.
There's no context behind there not being a checkpoint. There just isn't one.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
It's just a combat challenge. I don't know. Yeah, but I didn't expect any of that stuff. So when it came up, I was like, oh, this is surprising. I didn't know that they were doing even weapon upgrades. I don't think was in the first game that I remember, and it was nice. I was not expecting to be surprised by any of the mechanics in the game. Like the upgrades you get in the middle of the game aren't particularly amazing, but I had stilts on for the back half of that campaign, and it was really funny. I would always be up like 10 feet above everyone, sort of slowly walking around, shooting
does sound
down.
fun, yeah.
And it was silly and fun, yeah. So we won't spoil story stuff.
Yes, we will not do that.
You and I might have a discussion, but I will cut it from this from the overall video because we like to keep things relatively spoiler-free here.
This game has fantastic writing. Like,
Yeah.
It's really, really impressive. It's strong movie potential. Like, if you cut down all the cutscenes and it was a real movie, I think this would be successful. There is multiple character arcs between the whole crew.
Yeah.
Lots of strong, interesting personalities. Some of the moments in the campaign are not just like fun because they're twisted, which is what I assumed the game was going to be. I thought it was just going to be kind of fucked up, and that's like, oh, it's shocking, and it's, look at it. But it's actually like, there's some really creative stuff. You probably know what I mean from the moment, like the one really shocking moment in the game.
Well, there's two, I would say, so...
Yes, the one not close, more forward. I think that might be one of the best setups and payoffs in video game history.
Yeah, it is.
When they introduce you to the little cat monkey thing, that so cleverly ties in to how you get out of a really bad situation halfway through the game, which I thought was amazing. It was so well put together. It was so clever. And it was one of those moments where I actually knew, well, not knew, but I was like, okay, this is going to play out this way.
Yes.
I think this game's crazy, and they're going to go through with what it's suggesting. And then the thing happened, and I was like, oh, you bastard. What's going to happen now? And then I did not see what was going to happen right after that. And it was so fun, creative, and fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, the setup...
I was gleeful about it.
Oh, God, yeah. I was like... I was... Yeah, it was probably the most animated I've been watching anything in a long time. While like that and one other scene have played out, I was just like, I was so baffled that they were doing it, and that also they were doing it so well. It just blew my mind, kind of, because like the game is ballsy and ambitious in a way, and achieves all those ambitions in a way that I've not seen in game storytelling before. Like it's serious. But the moments that really stand out are when it just says, fuck this, let's do something ridiculous. And it does it so well. Like it obviously the writing in the first game was phenomenal. But you could tell that they were keeping it tame. They were keeping it, relatively peripheral, or like the side characters were where the weird stuff came up. In this game, it very much feels like Bethesda said, okay, you can go make Wolfenstein 2. People love that first game. You can do whatever you want. And they said, oh, okay, good. Because there is no point in this game where it feels like someone looked at it and said no. In a way that is kind of shocking.
Yeah, I think one of the best things the game has going for it is it has this really like delicate tone and balance where at any time it feels like it could spiral into Saints Row territory, but it never does.
Yes.
It has this strange, I don't know, it's just grounded in a way which it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think maybe it is because of the clever writing and some actual use of humanity for the characters. There's some emotional moments to the point where it never feels really goofy. It feels like they're real people, and this isn't a comedy show. Yeah,
balancing a tone of like severe depression and misery with absurd, like comically ridiculous black dark humor, it's I don't know if I've ever seen it done before, and let alone like they do it without issue. Like it comes off so complete and like thought out. And like the character work, as you've said, is incredible in this. I think Frau Engel is like a horrifying villain. She's not in it a lot like the first, like Death's Head in the first game, but she's in it more than Death's Head was in the first game. And every time she shows up, it's like genuinely uncomfortable.
She's really good. I'd love to know who like did her mocap or her voice acting.
Yeah, she's a stage actress from Germany, from Berlin or something, and
she's excellent.
She's incredible. Yeah, like they do on replay. I was noticing like there's a lot of really good little things captured in the motion capture from the actors, like even little background movements, like in the opening scene where there's the axe involved. The Nazi that grabs the axe off the wall, like plays with the axe a little bit in his hand. Like there's just a lot of little detail like that. But the main character work, like she is sickening. The two main scenes or three main scenes that she's on screen and in your face is like maybe the most effective game villain I've seen. Game villains are usually pretty bad or corny or over the top, which she is kind of all those things, but in a way that comes across as being like when like people want her dead in that game and you're right along with them. Like you're like, yes, let's please kill Frau Engel. She is
she's a fantastic psycho. There's even like really twisted moments in the game where she's done some dark things to affect your character emotionally, and she's kind of like borderline flirting with you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really, really uncomfortable, and there's a bit where she sticks like a gun in your mouth, and there's a horrible monologue during that, which I won't spoil because it's a good moment in the game, and she's just really, really well written and performed. Really good stuff.
Yeah, and that applies to everyone in the game. Like they added some new characters. Sigrun Engel is great. She's hilarious. All the new there aren't a lot of new characters. They're mostly returning, but Horton is pretty fun. Yeah, I really like his scene with BJ and Paris Jack and the sniper played the clarinet. That scene is
really good.
Fucking weird and amazing.
Everyone
and
has a moment. They give time to every character.
Yeah, and they're all flawed and also have a good sense of humor. I don't know, like really good. Like tonal fluctuations are, I think, weird to a lot of, especially North American audiences, because movies and TV it's mostly always, it's like, this is a serious drama or this is a fun comic book movie. But tonal fluctuations, like, that's life, like people deal with horrible tragedy a lot of the times by, having some good times, having fun, or laughing after something horrible happens, things like that. Like it's natural and I think realistic, and this game does that in a way that I've not seen before. And I also want to give a special shout out to BJ Blazkowicz, the main character of the game, who started out as a little hardly animated sprite on the main screen of Wolfenstein 3D that just indicated your health. They've taken a guy that was not a character at all and aesthetically turned him into a big, beefy, dumb-looking white guy who, you would think is incapable of having any emotions, especially because game protagonists are usually pretty bland. Yeah. Deliberately. But he is such a human character, even more so in this game, and it kind of blows my mind how well they've developed him and how good of a performance Brian Bloom, the voice actor and motion capture guy, gives as BJ Blazkowicz. They flesh out his history and his childhood, and keep him still being religious and caring and a family man. And there's a scene where he's like weeping about how exhausted he is from all the murder and how he just wants to raise his children in a good world. And it's so pure that for it to come out of the main character is incredible. And I think storytelling all over. I think it's like this in The Last of Us in terms of like interesting writing and interesting main characters. And
yeah,
he
just
is incredible.
A bizarre tone.
Yeah. That scene where he's which I'll just censor that, is remarkable, I think.
That's what I was saying earlier. There's a lot of surprising human moments
Yeah.
in this sometimes twisted and sometimes wacky campaign. And I'm not a writer. I haven't tried to write anything, but I assume mixing tones together is a difficult feat to achieve. And you don't really even see that done in movies successfully all the time, let alone in video games.
Yeah. And everyone gives an amazing performance.
Yes, there is not a loose link in it.
The main protagonist and the main antagonist are really exceptional, and I think like high points for all of gaming, I think, from the two of them.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I said right at the beginning. Like,
yeah.
one part of this game is some of the best I've ever seen, and the other part wasn't for me.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's Wolfenstein, I guess.
I think that brings it together.
I'll say this: if there wasn't another game that had come out much earlier in the year, there would be like no competition for me in calling this my favorite game of the year.
Interesting.
Without any qualms, honestly. Like I understand all the complaints you have, but they just didn't bother me, and I had a great time playing it, and was truly amazed by the story stuff that they do in this game. Yeah.
I would recommend this game still, even though I didn't really engage or enjoy the design choices in the shooting aspects of the game. I appreciate that, you enjoyed them, but I really feel like if it's a sequel, just innovate a little bit, polish, make things more efficient.
Yeah, that's completely valid, I think.
Yeah. But the story stuff and I think it's more characters. The story in the game's interesting. Yeah. But it's more of a journey with the people that is the best part of the game. It's just such a great squad of people. Everyone gets their little moment in the spotlight. People are built up well, have unique and interesting personalities, and I would watch just a series on the internet with those guys forever. Very entertaining, very well written, and worth playing the game just for that aspect, I think.
Yeah, and goddamn, do they ever need to make a third and final game? I think.
Yeah, I think they are from the way they ended it.
Yeah, I mean, like the first game, they could leave it ambiguous and not make a second one, and I would still be satisfied. But they definitely set up some things at the end of this game that it's like, okay, we need one more game to really finish this out, and I would love if they did that, especially because some of the character transitions over the game would be really interesting to see. Like, I would presume he would have children in the third game if it's a few months after. I would imagine they do make a third game because Bethesda just doesn't really seem to give a shit. They just are like, just make these games. No one buys them, but everyone loves them.
Yeah. God bless him.
Yes. This game sort of astounds me in the way that Mad Max Fury Road astounds me, in that it's like, how did they get this much money to make something so weird and big budget? So thanks, Bethesda, for funding such a weird fucking game, and please just do it one more time, because goddamn,
they're a fun publisher.
Yeah, they've put out some of the best single-player games in the last few years, and it's a shame no one seems to buy those games, but like I said, I don't think Bethesda is too concerned by that right now.
They just sell an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout every couple of years, and then they're just set.
Yeah. So thanks, Fallout 4. You were good for something after all.
Yeah, you funded a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Oh boy, an hour and 24, and we still have 2 more games to talk about.
We do. Yeah.
Well,
moving on.
Yeah. I'll let you take AC. You take the reins on this one.
Okay. Assassin's Creed Origins. I think out of us two, I have become the most anti-Assassin's Creed person here. I really was so fatigued by the format by the end of Black Flag. And Black Flag was one of the better Assassin's Creed games, and I was still just fucking sick of it. I haven't felt that way towards any other franchises from Ubisoft, and some of them are like almost as bad. Far Cry is getting there. It's getting as repetitive. I skipped Unity, I skipped Syndicate, and I was going to skip Origins completely. But we got given a free code from Ubisoft. Thank you very much, Ubisoft, for the code. And I think it would just be a bit rude to be given a code for a free game and to not at least try it. Yeah. And also, they took a break. They took an extra year out to develop this game. So there was some potential promised. Now, when I jumped into this game, I was actually genuinely aggressively upset with how the same it is as all the other Assassin's Creed. I went in expecting a lot of mechanical change, and it really hasn't mechanically changed that much. They've made some nice tweaks and polishes to the game. The most immediate is collectibles are out the window. They're literally gone, which is fantastic, because fuck collectibles. And they've changed the combat system to be like a simplified For Honor, where you're like blocking and you're doing light and heavy attacks. And to begin with, I was like, I've done this routine 1,000 times over. And I was just ready to be like, this is shit. I pushed through for a few more hours in the game. And I think that the game does a really bad job of selling the world to you to begin with. You start in a really uninteresting location where it's just like a couple of shacks and some sand dunes. And I was like, Egypt sucks. This is not a fun location. The intro to this game is bad. Yeah, it didn't sell me on the game at all. Yeah. But when I got through to the first big city / town settlement, I was like, damn, this is actually a really nice looking place. I'm going to push through and see what more I can discover. And then I started to realize where the extra year of work had gone in Origins. And from what I can see, it almost went exclusively into making the environment for Assassin's Creed Origins. The game, to me, feels pretty much the same. The format's a bit more RPG-like and focused on side quests rather than just following a main quest. But when it comes to the extra work and polish, it all went into the world, I think. And I think it really paid off. I think this is this is my favorite in-game environment to explore that I've ever played. I'm actually saying that. Wow. I love exploring this world. Actually, I want to use the word environment over world, because I feel like world kind of encompasses everything from characters and the way things are, and like there's a lot better worlds that I think are more interesting. But when it comes to exploring an environment, I adore this environment. I love Egypt. I've spent a large part of the game just going to little question marks on the mini-map. And the question marks are pretty much just the side activities, but they've hidden them from sight, so you have to find them first for it to tell you what they are. And I'm not even doing them. I don't care about doing fortresses and killing captains. I don't care about buried treasure and loot. I am just going to the points because it's a reason to push me into the areas. And I love exploring in this game. The whole map is open from the beginning. I'm pretty sure. I didn't exactly try and go from the top to the bottom of the map before I progressed in the main story, but I'm almost certain the whole map is just open for you to go wherever you want. It's not fully advised because there is leveling now in this game. Enemies have levels, you have a level, so you can go into an area where there's just like fucking hyenas that will tear you apart because they're level 40 and you're level 7. But I just adore the environment. I think it's detailed, intricate, it feels lived in, it's stunning, varied, and just really interesting, and something that we haven't seen in video games, at least not to this level of detail. No. And we're going to talk about other aspects. I'll pass over to you in a second to talk about the environment. I think there's some things which aren't as improved as the environment. But it's a positive sign for this franchise, because when you create a world that's fun to explore, it makes everything else easier to do and some flaws easier to overlook. It's kind of like going back to our Destiny 2 chat, when the game is so fun to play, you don't really mind if some of the things are repetitive. Yeah. In Assassin's Creed Unity, the world is so fun to be in my opinion, and walk around in, that I don't mind that some other aspects of the game haven't been pushed as much as it. But what do you think of Egypt in Origins?
Egypt itself is pretty solid, I think, actually. I definitely agree that like the first zone is pretty lame, and I think the game as a whole just has a terrible start. Like it's just it does a very poor job of introducing the world or the story or anything. It's just like it just drops you in and you're like, oh, okay. And the starting zone is pretty uninteresting. I was initially sort of not caring for Egypt because something I've always liked about the AC games is just the sort of grand density of being in this huge city. You know, France or Paris, London, and then even back to Rome or whatever it was in Italy. And so I initially sort of missed that sense of scale. But then after a couple hours, I should say I started it on the PS4 and hated everything about it and then switched to the PC version to give it a second chance. And I'm glad I did that because it feels so much better on the PC.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, after a few hours, once I basically caught up to where I was on the PS4, I started to sort of, spend more time in the environment and realize that actually the scale it's a different type of scale from the last games. It's not this density, this verticality. It's, it's a fucking desert. So it's expansive. And the scale is not vertical, it's horizontal, and it just goes. And
massive map.
Yeah, the map is huge. Probably too big. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
But Egypt, they do good stuff with it. There's a really good sense of place to the whole game, for sure. And a good variety of environments that I've seen so far. I've only put about 10 hours into it. But just so I've already sort of been in the northern, the furthest south I've gone is the pyramids, basically. Yeah. And there's, you said it the other day, there's like a lot of empty space in that game that's actually really nice. Mm-hmm. I'm so used to Ubisoft games just being full of stuff, and this game certainly is, but there are large sections where it's just desert, and there's nothing to find there. You just walk through the desert or ride your camel through the desert, and that's nice. I need to spend more time just doing what you're doing, because that actually sounds good, which is just sort of wandering about. Yeah. I've been fast traveling a lot, which I just sort of realized last night is the wrong way to go about it. There's a lot of variety in the environment, in the world, which surprised me. I was not expecting. I thought, it would be like this one city, Alexandria, and then maybe like one or two others, and then it would just be a bunch of little shitty shacks and desert. And it kind of is that, but they do a lot with their environment. And it doesn't feel quite so much like an Assassin's Creed environment, which is fine, but it feels like a really good open world environment in a way that Ubisoft games, I feel like they're really good at making worlds. But this is probably the best world that they've made so far.
I would 100% agree, yeah.
Except for maybe Black Flag for me, just because I really liked just sailing around in Black Flag and doing basically what you're doing, which is just wandering, achieving basically nothing.
Slowly, yeah.
Yeah, but the world is quite impressive. And I was also really impressed by that myth video you did, seeing all the little weird details, both environmentally and interactions and combat even. I was very impressed by that. And this game definitely feels like, moving out of the environment, it feels like they paid attention to a lot of other open world games from the last couple of years and were like, okay, let's just copy some of those things, for better and for worse, I think. Should we talk about the worst part of this game, in my opinion?
Combat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad.
I think I'm 20 to 30 hours into the game.
Right.
And I have got used to combat now.
Yeah.
And when there are small numbers of enemies, I kind of enjoy it. When you are overwhelmed, it's really frustrating and it kind of all falls apart. I don't know if it's meant to be that way because it's, you're an assassin. You're supposed to be sneaky. But I've done my best to get a really good bow, because bows are really fun in the game. I try to be sneaky, And then eventually, if I get caught, I just have to hope that there's only like 2 or 3 guys around, because the hand-to-hand combat with a large group of people around you is really frustrating, clunky, and messy. I think a large part of that is a bad lock-on system. The game doesn't really seem to know which guy you want to lock onto. A lot of times I'll be like flicking through, and I'm like, I want to lock onto the guy who's right in front of me, stabbing me with a sword, and it's like looking at the guy behind him, and that can be a little bit frustrating. I've kind of resolved that myself by doing my best to not engage in it all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I don't use the lock-on, but my problem with the combat
Probably a better idea.
It plays a lot like Bloodborne, I think.
Wow.
From like a fundamental, like a basics perspective.
Okay.
You know, you've got your, like even the controls with the bumpers for attacks. I feel like they looked at Bloodborne and were like, let's make a game that plays like that on a basic level. Except I think it plays worse than Bloodborne in every conceivable way.
Well, they made For Honor this year, which is a melee combat game.
Yeah, and I didn't play For Honor, so my reference for this from a gameplay perspective is it feels like a bad Bloodborne knockoff. And I think a lot of it would be alleviated with like a more generous lunge forward and sort of auto aim when you're attacking, because half the time when I'm playing and I get into combat, I try to hit someone and I feel like I'm just striking the air like 1 foot in front of them and missing. And
I think that's what the lock-on's for.
No, but the lock-on, you're just it's not a targeting thing. It's like I'm aiming right at them.
Oh, I see.
It's just
so like if
depth.
you use like heavy weapons, you can miss people really easily.
Yeah, even with the shorter range weapons, I feel like there just needs to be a tiny bit of a lunge forward to sort of like bridge the gap between my weapon and the dude I'm swinging at. And I just don't think the combat's very good. And
No.
The combat in the prior games got to a point where it was like insanely easy, and you were just a blender of knives killing everything in your path. And I kind of liked that, but at the same time, that was the most efficient way to play, and it resulted in me never engaging with any of the other gameplay styles. And like you said, my solution to the bad gameplay or the bad combat is, okay, I'm just not going to engage with this as much as possible. So
I recommend just trying to find a weapon which makes things easier.
Well, yeah, so I have a few solutions. The first was loading Cheat Engine up and giving myself $150,000 and buying a whole bunch of crates from Dude, what gives you exotic gear, the kid. And I did that, spent like $50,000 there and was like, okay, I've got a bunch of exotic gear now. I'm really strong. Also, I'm playing it on easy. And then, my other solutions are, okay, I don't want to engage with the combat. I'm going to spec towards stealth and bow combat. And I actually am enjoying that. I am surprised. Like my big problem with AC for a long time has been, well, I mean, there have been many, but the big one is I don't feel like a stealthy assassin anymore. I just feel like I said, a human blender, killing everything in sight. And because I don't want to engage with the combat, I'm playing it much more stealthily. I'm climbing up on things, I'm scouting and using the bow a lot and actually enjoying it.
One thing I want to quickly touch on for the stealth is I feel like stealth games do a bad job of, once you are detected, getting back into stealth can be really, really bad sometimes. Yeah. They just don't do it right, to the point where enemies know where you magically are because they've detected you once. And there are some moments in Origins which don't feel perfect, where you like walk around like 4 walls and they still somehow know where you are. But this feels pretty close to being accurate, where you get spotted, some archers are pissed off at you, but not the whole settlement is against you. They're not all aggroed. Just like these 2 people in a corner have seen you, and you can quite easily break line of sight, and it gives you like a visual indication of when you are unseen, which I liked. I hate stealth games which punish you for being spotted. No, I hate stealth games where once you're spotted, that's it. It's over. Now it's combat time.
Yeah, like the prior games, the last few that I've played pretty much all of them except for 3 and Rogue, but that's fine. It was like when you get spotted, it definitely felt like everyone in this area knows where I am and they're all coming to kill me. And that sucked. I hated it, which is why I didn't engage with the stealth for the last several games. And yeah, it's been nice. I'm not paying any attention to the story. I'm skipping all the story cutscenes because I just don't care. Haven't cared about AC story since the end of AC2 when Biodigital Minerva showed up at the end and after you killed the Pope, and I was like, I'm good, thanks. So I've been playing it from a pure gameplay and world exploration point of view, and I hated my time with it on the PS4 and switched to PC and was like astonished at how much better it feels at 60 FPS. And I've been having a relatively good time with it, actually. It's comfy. The world is nice to explore. I'm mostly enjoying playing it because I like playing stealthily and with the bow. And yeah, I think I've played probably 10 or 15 hours of Unity and Syndicate. And Syndicate was a very solid game, but I just I wasn't interested. I was like, okay, I'm good. Whereas this, it's like, it's sort of coming off of Shadow of War. I thought, oh, I don't want to do another collectathon game, open world collectathon thing. And this doesn't feel like a collectathon because there aren't, like you said, there are no collectibles for the most part. I think like the side quests are all pretty boring, and it's just like fetch quests, not very good. But just in terms of having a nice, comfy game that I'm enjoying, just sort of poking at and exploring and stealth killing with my bow, I've been having a decent time with it, and we'll keep playing it, and probably end up playing it more than any AC game since Black Flag.
Well, yeah,
which is that's good. That means they've improved some things, I think. Yeah,
a lot.
I think they still have issues, like the combat, the quest design. It's all fine. The quest design is better than it's been in probably ever in AC. Like, I haven't had to eavesdrop on anyone.
The thing I wanted to touch on, which I like and I also don't like, is this game has now a very Witcher-esque RPG format to it, where it's all about the side quests and the main quests you kind of just build up to and level up to. I think I've done like 5 or 6 main quests across like 30 hours, and I've done like 65 side quests.
There are too many side quests.
They've actually done a really good job with giving these side quests personalities. Each of them have like mini stories, unique characters, and some of the scenarios are really bizarre and varied. But they haven't introduced enough gameplay mechanics to make it fun to do that many side quests. As I said, I think I've done 60. I'm on level 25 quests, if that makes any sense. I'm going through in level order so I don't over-level things too quickly. And it goes up to level 40. I reckon I've got at least 20 more side quests, and I think it's valiant for them to want to do loads of side quests, because all these little stories, I think, help the world. There's people with problems and you're helping them, but the game isn't versatile enough to deal with how many they integrated into the game. I think it's cool that they have loads of stories and the writing is sometimes interesting, at least for these small quests. I like the small quests.
It's mostly fine, I think.
But there's only so many tombs you can pillage, people you can carry out of danger, and little encampments you can kill the chiefs in and rescue people over and over and over. Unique stories is good, but the activities should be more varied. And the main quest does some variation, but the side quests do not. I think they saw The Witcher, and they were like, side quests are a great tool for world building, but The Witcher had interesting activities and fun monsters to battle, which kept things fun.
And really good writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a good step in a world-building direction, and I prefer the format of doing little problems rather than this stupid Animus stuff, which I just don't care about.
Yeah.
God, I hate the stuff when like you jump out the Animus. It's like I don't give a shit.
It's so useless. Yeah.
You're breaking my immersion and my momentum. I want to be Bayek, or whatever this Egyptian guy is.
Yeah.
I'm having fun. I like the world. I don't want to be in fucking 2017 in this weird cave. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The last time I liked the Animus stuff was in Black Flag, where you're literally like making a pirate video game for Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Because it was
that
so
self-aware
weird.
stuff is fun.
Yeah. But
I think I'm going to go through and just give some miscellaneous compliments and some criticisms.
Okay.
I like the animals in the game.
Mm.
Nice little variation. This is a very specific compliment, but good birds. Really good birds. I haven't seen flocks of birds this big in any video game. Like, you'll be walking through a field and you'll just disturb like 70 flamingos and they'll flock up into the air, and it looks awesome. I like water stuff in this game as well. I think the boats are fun, and they've done a very unnatural thing where when you dive underwater, you can look up crystal clearly. Like,
oh, really?
When you're underwater looking up, you can see everything, which is inaccurate, but it's really fun from a gameplay perspective because you feel powerful because no one can see you underwater, but you can see everything. It's like a one-way mirror. So I really like the water stuff. I like being on a boat, swimming around, and just diving underwater for treasure and sneaking away from people. It's fun. They have put a system into the game where you get tracked down by bounty hunters. And when that first happened in the game, I thought it was just going to be a generic system which you see in other games where people just attack you randomly every now and then, and it's just like a pacing thing to give the player some combat force on them. But it's not. You get these mini bosses which all have a specific personality and design, and they're just wandering the map looking for you, and they're really difficult to beat, and they're kind of scary, to be completely honest.
I've gotten close to one before, and the sound that plays when they're nearby is spooky. Yeah, and I just immediately hid in cover.
Yeah, I've battled a few of them, and they're really difficult. Even if they're lower level than you, they're a really difficult fight. They have so much HP, and they will beat you down. And it's a really fun gameplay element to look on the map and be like, my quest is over here, but there's fucking 2 bounty hunters right there. And it's like, I'm going to go there later. I really don't want to deal with that. And sometimes you'll be wandering around and you'll hear like, and I'm like, oh no. Oh no. So that was a really fun system that I haven't really seen people do. The mini bosses that are just tracking you down and trying to find you, and they're nightmares, and I just don't want to run into them. It's a fun bit of suspense. Let's see if there's anything else left on my list. I actually like the weapon system. I like the variety of weapons and being kind of forced to switch between them depending on the quality and how much damage they do. I have found a spear, which has a really unique element to it where it takes away 2 of my health bars, because in the game you have like 3 chunks. Yeah. I think it's called cursed. So I only have 1 health chunk, but it does like 100 more damage than any of my other weapons. And I really like that risk-reward type system where I can die easily, but I can output loads of damage. I think it's fun. I think my last miscellaneous compliment is horse stuff. Horse combat is actually fun in this game because it's extremely generous with the hitboxes when you're swinging away at people. It's so generous to an unrealistic standpoint, but it actually makes it doable and pretty fun to just whack people off of horses. They also implemented an auto drive / ride system in the game, which is a bit janky.
It is very janky, yeah.
It likes to just ride through enemy camps a lot of the times, and when it sees a mountain, it's like, I'm just going to go around half the map instead of just push up it. So it's not perfect, but I like it. When you activate it, you can actually pop into your eagle. We haven't even talked about the eagle vision because it's just kind of a drone. But you can pop into the eagle as your horse is trotting along, and you can scour the world, look for any secrets while your horse is doing its thing. So it's a bit not buggy. It's a bit, what's the word?
Janky.
Yeah, it's janky. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not quite perfect, but I appreciate it because they made a world which is sometimes just lots of sand. Yeah. Sometimes it's not that fun.
It's nice to just sort of put the controller down for a minute.
Yeah, you can put the controller down or pop into Eagle Vision and have a look around. And I think my final point is I don't like the hunting in the game. I think it almost replaces the collectible system by making you have to constantly look for leather, hard leather, which comes from alligators, fur, which comes from lions, wood, copper, iron, which you have to look, and it's really repetitive and takes away from the momentum of the game, and I don't like it. I don't think it's a good system. They had it in Assassin's Creed 3 and it sucks. I don't want to do it. I don't want to have to kill animals for 10 hours to get my health up I like the weapon system. I think it's kind of fun and exciting to get legendary weapons from random bodies every now and then, and it would be nice to just integrate armor into that. Just make armor something you can buy or find, rather than me having to just slaughter animals for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, the loot system, I don't think it really adds anything to the game. I don't really care about it, but it's sort of like weird,
like
just to how much it's just Destiny. Like even with the menu, like the cursor.
Right, yeah.
It's like, wow, they play Destiny.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything for me, but I think it's fine that it's there. You forgot to talk about the greatest thing about this game.
Okay.
It's how you can just walk up to a bunch of lootable containers and just spam the Y button, and it just goes ting, 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 and you pick up like 8 things in a row.
Yes.
There's no animation or anything.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I haven't played Assassin's Creed for like 4 years, so there's a few tweaks and stuff that I might not consciously notice that have been
That's just like a general looting thing that I really appreciate. Like, I don't want to have to skin an animal, like in Far Cry or Red Dead. Like, just... I like that it's just, you walk up and you just touch it, and it's just, boom, instant. You instantly have whatever you're looting, except for the ones where you have to hold. But, like, when you're looting animal corpses, it's just, you just run past, you kill 5 of them, and you just run past and just spam pickup, and it just picks them all up, and it's really satisfying. It makes me very happy every time I loot things. I go out of my way to loot little containers just because it's so satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big game. So there's lots of little details that I could keep talking about. I like the torch in the game. They make some pitch black areas, and it's fun to actually throw the torches like into a corner and make your own light sources and illuminate a tomb by yourself. It's satisfying and gives you control over the situation. I like the tombs as well. I like looking in the pyramids for secret entrances and doing little micro puzzles. And yeah, there's a lot going on in this game, so it's hard to summarize, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think they should stop trying to improve the franchise.
Yeah.
But I really feel like this is a step in the right direction. I will be disappointed if they are like, this is the new format, people like Origins, so we're just going to do this thing that we're doing for the next 4 games.
Yeah.
I would be very happy if they continue to slightly innovate and clean up this kind of dusty and annoying format that they've made, and just make small tweaks to it, make a really interesting world. Less side quests, better combat, and we could actually be looking at something really good in this franchise. I don't believe I'm saying this because I thought I was done with it forever, but if they keep pushing, then they could be really good games, which is very strange to think for a Ubisoft game. I can't imagine like a Far Cry or Assassin's Creed being like a potential Horizon Zero? Nah, too far. A potential good game. I know, I'm sorry. A potential really, really good game in the future. But not quite there, but a lot of really good improvements, I think.
Yeah, after a few hours, just sort of accepted and realized that this is just a Ubisoft open world game. Like the eagle literally makes electronic drone sound effects to the point that it's like really weird, and it's just like, okay, this is Watch Dogs 2, this is Ghost Recon Wildlands. Like, you got a drone, you're marking guys. It's the all
on a combat kind of.
Yeah, it's the all game. Like almost all the Ubisoft games are, but they've cut out a lot of the shit in it, which is like the side stuff. I mean, like we said, there's definitely too many side quests, but I think back to like Far Cry 4, or I have a picture saved on my PS4 from Unity where I had zoomed out all the way on the map, and you literally can't even see the map because it's completely covered in icons.
Yeah.
And they've gotten rid of a lot of that stuff. And that's good. And yeah, I think I wouldn't say that it's like much improved over Syndicate, because Syndicate was good, I think, overall. But the ways they've tweaked it, I think, are solid and respectable. And I'm curious to see where they go from here, because the fact that they took a year off is pretty amazing, honestly.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, it's crazy.
Yes, yeah. Like, can you imagine Call of Duty taking a year off? I mean, it would be astounding. So I'm curious to see, do they take a year off again, or is it back to yearly releases?
I would say I'm expecting yearly releases, but I would be so happy and surprised if they took another year off.
Yeah, I think it would be more effective if they put a game out every other year instead of every year. And
I don't know if they can get to this quality of world building and environment with 1 year. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they don't make these games in a year, so like they have like 4,000 employees working. AC Origins is the Black Flag team, like they led it. So they've been working on this for like 3 years, and I remember AC3 they worked on since AC2 shipped. So it's like Ubisoft is a big weird company that just sort of spends years making games but puts them out like every year. And but yeah, like I have thought many times while playing this game that like, holy shit, I can't imagine how many people worked on this game just to make the environment, because like
like assets of the architecture and stuff, it's mental.
Like every column you walk past has like super detailed hieroglyphs on it, and you're just like, 100%. Jesus. It's staggering. The scale and detail is really, really amazing. But I'll be very curious what they do in the future, release-wise, location-wise, gameplay-wise. See where they innovate. It's taken it from... They've taken AC from being something that I sort of kept like in the corner of my eye out of curiosity, but I didn't really give a shit about, and I still honestly don't. But I'm now invested in seeing where they go, just mainly from a curiosity perspective. Like I want to see what they do, and it'll be
I'm similar, yeah.
And I think overall it's perfectly solid and quite good in some areas and pretty underwhelming in a few others. But overall, it's an improvement. Like I said, I haven't had to eavesdrop on anyone so far. There have been no shitty, horrible mission designs. They've all been pretty loose, pretty free form, I think. The Ubisoft games of past sure do like you to play their missions in one very specific way, and I hated that. And
it sucks.
Yeah, they've sort of pulled back a little bit from that, and it goes a long ways, just little things like that.
I agree. I didn't think after playing Origins or trying it that I would be interested in the Assassin's Creed train again. But I'm kind of back on, and I'm going to be spectating and seeing where it goes, where before I wasn't even looking. I didn't know what was happening. I was just out. And now I'm back in. Fucking Destiny and Assassin's Creed. I'm just treading old ground and fucking falling into the old habits and franchises. But yeah, I like Origins. Good game.
It's solid.
I hope they keep innovating on the franchise, because it's paid off in ways.
Yeah, I agree.
in certain ways.
For the most part, yeah. And you saying you would be interested in going back to old games, I would say you should definitely not do that, because...
I want to see the environments a lot.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's fair.
Because when I say like I wasn't paying attention, like I really wasn't paying attention. Like every screenshot of like Unity and Syndicate you sent to me, I haven't seen any of that, because I just wasn't looking at it at all. Yeah. So it kind of reminded me that they do make good environments.
Yes.
And I should check them out.
Yeah, you can pretty easily like give yourself infinite health or something on PC and just roam around and look at the environments, which they're worth doing, because the production values are ridiculous. And
I should at least look at London, since I go to it all the time.
Yeah. Good job, Ubisoft.
Right.
I hope that they can bring some freshness to Far Cry 5, because
yes.
I don't think it's going to be fresh, honestly.
It needs to be. After playing 4, I was like, okay, the next one has to be different.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be.
Pretty low expectations for Far Cry 5, honestly.
I'm optimistic. Maybe naively, but we shall see.
Yeah. We'll see, yeah.
All right. On to the piece de la resistance. Wait, that's not...
Pièce de la résistance.
On to...
the finale? I don't know.
The finale.
Sure.
10 out of 10. Pristine quality. Flawless experience. Here we go. Nintendo's baby. Mario! And you're also on your own, because I don't have a Switch, so I have yet to try it. But this is going to be interesting, because this is your first go at a 3D Mario game. I have personally played Sunshine and both Galaxies. I don't think I've beaten any of them, but I had fun and moved on. So when seeing Odyssey, I kind of know what to expect, but it's a fresh experience for you. So I'm interested in seeing how your time with it has been.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up with the Nintendo, so my experiences are weird, let's say, for the most part. The most Mario I've played was Mario Maker, and that's 2D, and it was delightful. But 2D and 3D Marios are very different, especially when one Mario Maker is designed around user-created content.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't really know what to expect from Odyssey.
I don't think anyone really did. They're a weird company. No one really knows what they're going to do. Yeah,
I think in some regards, you're right. So, to my understanding, it's just kind of another 3D Mario game.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, it's from what I figured out, structurally and what you do. This game is a collectathon. Speaking of collectibles, that's Mario Odyssey. All you do is collect things in this game. It's literally the only thing to it is you have 900 moons and a trillion purple coins, and that's what you do. You go from kingdom to kingdom, and you collect moons until your eyes are bleeding, and then you turn them in, and then you go to the next kingdom and you repeat. And so I was a little surprised by the simplicity of it in its core, in that it's just an exploration collectathon. But with Mario Odyssey, where it stands out, I think, is the variety in ways in which you can get those collectibles. We talked a lot in Breath of the Wild about the shrines. That game is shrines and Korok seeds, and the Korok seeds have very little variety to them. And the shrines, all the puzzles in the shrines are different, but they're still, a shrine is a shrine. If you get what I mean. And whereas Odyssey is a really neat game because it is full of unique, one-off throwaway things from a gameplay point of view. And
yeah, this sounds about right.
Yeah, and so the variety of it comes from the fact that you can now possess things with your hat, which is, man, I don't know what is going on with the Mario lore in this game, but
there is no lore.
It's dark. I don't want to know what happens when you leave the soul of the thing you've possessed, or what happens to Mario, and is Mario a human being because he doesn't look like the people of New Donk City? I don't know. Mario Odyssey is fucked up. So yeah, you can possess things, and that's where the majority of the uniqueness comes from in this game, in getting the moons, is all the ways that they have made the moon puzzles different from each other. And some of them, you just butt stomp a part of the ground where there's some vibration happening, and you get a moon. But the best parts are going to a new kingdom and finding the things that you can possess, and then using the mechanics of the thing you've possessed to do a whole bunch of different things, like platforming and puzzles and exploration and getting into tricky little spots of the environment. And I think there's 40 or 50 different beings you can possess.
Yeah.
And the variety of them is enormous, and all the different ways that they play differently is really impressive. There's, you can possess a Goomba, and you can make a stack of Goombas for a lady Goomba who wants a stack of Goombas that's 10 Goombas tall.
Ooh,
she won't take anything less. She wants it big and long. And, so, you make your 10 stack of Goomba, and she goes, "Oh, baby," and gives you a moon. And then you jump them into the lava and jump out of the top Goomba and let them all burn to death. Mario Odyssey's fucked up. Or you possess a little bird that has a beak that you can extend, and it lodges into the walls of the environment, and you fling yourself up the wall and lodge yourself in and climb up walls that way. or you possess a lava ball and swim around in magma. And, you know, there is a pretty impressive variety of little gameplay things that they've come up with.
This sounds like the 3D Mario way. The games are very much designed around, like, they are predicting that people have very short attention spans.
Right.
This sounds very much like the Galaxy games, where every planet had its own theme, and they would introduce a new mechanic, and then just, like, 2 levels later, just throw it away and you never see it again.
Right.
That's very much how those games played out.
Yeah, and that's very much the case here. And so yeah, I think this game is better made than Zelda, and I like it more than Zelda. Even though I think Zelda is a more interesting game, because it's so different from the prior things, and they are experimenting so much with it. I think, like, sort of academically, but Breath of the Wild is more fascinating. But Mario Odyssey is just this tight as hell, uber polished, very creative and adorable experience. And where Breath of the Wild lost me was it never felt like I was finding anything new after a certain point, after like 10 or 15 hours. Where Odyssey impresses me is that it constantly feels like I'm discovering something new. And I burned through the campaign in like 6 hours because I didn't really understand exactly that, like, the thing you get for beating the campaign is just more moons for you to find. So I wish I had spent more time in each zone exploring it, because part of the fun is seeing what the next zone looks like. And I will say the kingdoms are a bit all over the place in terms of, I wouldn't say necessarily in terms of gameplay quality. I think there's a lot of unique stuff to all of them, but a big part of the charm is how they look, I think, and just sort of the joy of exploring this visually interesting environment. And I think, like, in that regard, the game is a little hit or miss. There's a couple of environments that are trying to be sort of realistic looking, like New Donk City, or this sort of industrial forest area, and like they kind of just look bad, but they're interesting from a gameplay perspective. Like New Donk City is so full of things to find that it is interesting. I wish that the game looked more like some of the other kingdoms that are like really cartoony and ridiculous, just from an aesthetic point of view. Some of them, like New Donk City, or the forest area, I don't want to explore them as thoroughly because I don't like the look of them as much. And, you know, that's like a classic Nintendo thing of, like, they don't have super powerful hardware. It's all about the art. And I just don't like the look of some of the zones. But, man, when they're on point with their art, does it ever work? There's a late game kingdom called the Luncheon Kingdom, which is probably my favorite thing, like, visually, that I've seen in a game in a long time. It's just so delightful and colorful and charming.
I think I've seen that. Is that the one with the pink ocean?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I've seen some clips of that.
And giant corn cobs and cheese that you have to break using a hammer brother, and tomatoes. And so, like, in now the post game, my desire to explore some of those environments has diminished because I just don't like being in them as much. But the majority of the kingdoms are really excellent, and the fucking Luncheon Kingdom is incredible. I'll also say I have issues with the controls. Now, I will not say that this game controls poorly because I know that to be objectively false. But because I have no muscle memory with these games, my brain often is expecting something different, and I don't know what it is, but it is expecting different things from what the game actually is. And so my least favorite parts of this game are when you have to do, like, really involved platforming.
Yeah, there's like an intricate level of learning in some of the really advanced jumping sections in Mario games.
Yeah, and there's definitely not a lot of super involved platforming, and when there is, it's all optional, of course, and I've seen some of the videos that people have put out already with the movement. It's mind blowing. It's incredible what they're capable, like what the game allows for movement wise. But I am. That was where I would get most frustrated is trying to do these platforming things because my brain is just. It's just not acclimated to the controls, and I think just recently in the last few hours of play have I really started to settle into the controls and get used to them. The best part for me is just exploring the world and wandering around and finding all these crazy ways that they've hidden moons and enjoying the general charm and delightfulness of the game because it is adorable and hilarious. And just, it's a good game to have in the back half of 2017 in that it is delightful. It's positivity at every turn, and it's hard not to smile for most of that game.
Must have been a nice compliment to Wolfenstein.
Yeah, I was playing them like on the same day. It was hilarious to bounce between. So yeah, I think it's pretty neat. The parts where it really hooked me were in exploration and just sort of poking at it and seeing all the things that they came up with. And there are a staggering number of little things they came up with. And
900 moons is massive. In the older games, it was 120. And that was all of the stars. You didn't even have to get 120. It was like 60 to beat the game.
120 is beat the game in this game.
Well,
so
in the old games, every level had a single star.
Right.
And it was all built around getting to the end, and you'd get a star for it. So there was like 60 different levels, and they had some hidden stuff, time trials, etc., to get 120.
Wow. Yeah, so I've enjoyed playing it. It's been an interesting experience for me to figure out, what it is, how I feel about it, how I like it, and how I do wish I had that experience with the old Mario games because I know that there are a lot of things in this game which are just like, shocking to people and like huge nostalgia trips, things like that, that I'm very jealous of people that are getting that from this game because when something weird comes up in the game, I'm just like, oh, okay. I don't have this like pre-Mario history and knowledge where it's like I expect this and the game does something completely different. I don't get that surprise because I don't have that experience. It's still good and enjoyable and like I still am surprised by some of the things they come up with, but it's not like I'm shocked because I've played so many Mario games and I expect a different thing. So I do wish I had that nostalgia and experience. And I bet, people that have that just, I look at the reviews and the reception and it's like, oh, of course. Like I understand why people are having their minds blown by this game, even though I don't experience that because I don't have the history. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable collectathon game, and it's I'm continuing to play it, and I sure as shit I'm not going to get all the moons. I just cannot be bothered.
It's 500 to get the final ending, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's what I've heard,
and
so I'm working towards that. I think I'm at like 385 or so. Mm-hmm. I sometimes feel like there are just too many moons in some of the areas where it's like I feel like I've found them all and I still have like 20 that are there, and I just like I literally don't know how they could be hidden. And I find that frustrating because it's like, how did you fuckers hide 20 moons in this zone? But yeah, I think it's a very good, very well made, very polished, very creative and charming and fun game. And it took me a while to really start to like really like it or really enjoy it because of my issues with the controls, which are pretty exclusive to me for the most part. There's some forced motion control, which is dog shit, and I don't know why they do that because you can turn off motion controls in the menus, but there are still 3 different moves that you can only do with motion controls, and those are still present. Like I have motion controls turned off, and I can still flick my controllers, and it does the hat spin. So it doesn't actually turn them off fully. And there's like a couple of areas where you have to use a motion control thing to get a moon, and it's just a bad decision because for me at least, I look at the Switch more as a portable device. And I don't know about you, but like if I played a game on an iPad where I had to move my iPad around to aim, I would not play that game because the screen you're looking at should not have to move to control the game, right? Like, I don't want to play my portable device and be flicking it around to do moves while I'm playing the fucking thing. It's just a bad design decision, and I don't know why they forced motion controls. I don't even know why. I would be fine with it if there were, there was a button combination for all these motion control things, even though they're not important moves, but they're still there, and it's stupid, and I don't know why they did that, because Nintendo was weird, I guess, and I also think aiming with the hat is not very is not very good, because you have no way of you throw it the way you're looking. But I often find that it throws like to the left or to the right when I want it to throw straight, and it's just sort of tricky to get that. A lot of the times it takes an extra couple of throws for it to hit where I want it to go. So, I think those are relatively minor issues, but the hat throwing aiming is definitely the one that comes up the most, in that it's like, I meant to throw that in the straight in front of me, but it didn't quite throw straight in front of me. I don't really know how you would fix that, or if it's just, you just get a better sense of it the more you play. I've definitely been enjoying it more as I've gotten more accustomed to the controls, but I do think it's got a couple of little issues like that, control-wise. But yeah, now that I've, settled into the controls and accepted it as a collectathon game, I've been very much enjoying it. It's
cool.
A lot of it is style, but also a good part of it is also the surprise over and impressed at how many little things they came up with, because there are a lot of little throwaway gameplay mechanics that they just have there, and they're tied to one or two moons, and that's neat. It's like every kingdom, it is.
They just throw stuff away.
Yeah, and every kingdom sort of has an overall gameplay gimmick, and that's cool. But then there are tons of little other things that they've come up with that are just sort of there in the side, as like, I'm sure when I put this game down permanently, whenever that is, because it's a good short time game. Whenever I put it down, I'm sure there will be many little gameplay things that I never saw and did not know you could do, and that's great. And so yeah, of the two big 97 Metacritic Nintendo releases this year, I definitely enjoyed this one more than Zelda, even though I respect Zelda more, because this just seems like a really good Mario game. Or another good Mario game. Like, I'm not surprised that, it is what it is. But I think the core gameplay gimmick of Cappy possessing people and you playing as all these different things is great, and it works really, really well. And it's overall it's a very fun, charming thing.
Cool. Get some use out of that Switch.
Yeah, I like playing on the Switch. It's a good console.
Maybe one day I shall join you. I can join in on these reviews.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is, I don't know, I guess both Mario games you have not played, right? I was going to say,
I haven't, no.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how the Switch goes in 2018. If it keeps delivering stuff, then maybe I'll end up picking one up.
Mario had a good year this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was a nice, brisk chat, wasn't it? There was 4 games.
Just think about how short the Game of the Year video is going to be. It's going to be like 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Refer to this video.
To this video. But it's 4 hours long.
That was a long chat to round up. 1 month. It would probably
considering
be like
this is
4
part
hours.
2.
Yeah. But it's a busy month. We're finally coming through. We're seeing the light on the other side.
Thank
For
God.
November, we will have Call of Duty World War II, Battlefront 2, and the Horizon Zero Dawn DLC we'll probably talk about as well. So it's quietening down a little bit, which is nice.
Thank God.
It's a hard life keeping on top of video games and being a variety gamers. All you nerds who just stick to multiplayer shooters, you have it easy. You have no idea how expensive and difficult it is to actually like to play different video games. It's difficult. It's a hard life. But anyway. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening all the way to the end of this marathon. We will have another one not too soon. I don't actually know if we will even have one for December because it's looking pretty barren. No?
No, definitely not.
Okay. So one more for November, and then I assume one early January to summarize the year of 2017. So look forward to that. Thank you guys very much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.